Alright, in today's topic, we are going to talk about how to create a cluster index in DB2. This time I specifically Db2 LUW because there are confusions about the clustered index in the Db2 user community. Sometimes it is confused with the Db2 ZOS mainframe. Okay, so for certain IDBMS, the cluster index it is a very popular topic because when you create a table with a primary key, it defaults to a cluster index. And however, none of them is true for Db2 LUW. You create a table with primary key. The corresponding index is not a cluster index. Also, it is not popular in the Db2 user groups and community because later we will examine some sample databases provided IPM. One it is the sample database, another it is called GSDB. Both of them don't have clustered index. Okay, so that is also an indication. So after that, in the demo, we will just simply create a cluster index, and also we will create a cluster index corresponding to the primary key. Okay, so primary key index, the cluster index sometimes may help performance because your data it is in line with the index, and if your query using that index for the return data sometimes can better if compare a cluster index versus non-cluster index. Okay, let's get started. So let me go to a system. This is the system I'm going to use demo. So on this system, I have two databases. One it is the all standard DB2 data sample databases. One it is the GSDB. One is the sample. Okay. So GSDB probably have lots of tables. Sample have like few, like 10 some tables. Okay. Let's take a quick look. If let's see if we connect to the GSDB to see how many tables we have. We can do a quick query. DB2 list tables for all, right? So this is all the tables. So we are interested. Let me just simple this time, like GS related. Now let's see. I'm going to remove anything start with a sys. Okay, then grab those T. Let's see how many table we have. So it's a geo sales, so probably have maybe 200, 151. So we have 151. None of those table has a cluster index. How do we know that? The DB we can use the this query to find out. Okay, so let me just run this query from the terminal. So it's going to be db2 select like a count star that index called index type, what kind of index is, and from syscat.indexes let's group by. Okay, so index type, let's see, group by group Okay, let's see. So you can see we have like 500 regular indexes and also other index type. There's no cluster index. If there's a cluster index, we will see the keyword CLUS, okay? So we will see this keyword CLUS means the cluster, okay? So we will see later. Before we go further, let's take a look at the IBM documentation. Okay, so let's first look at the IBM adaptation for Db2 LUW. So that is for the version 11.5. And if you see here, that is what is in the Db2 LUW. It's very clear documented. It is as clustering indexes or clustered indexes cannot be specified as part of the table definition that is used with create a table statement. That means when you create a table, you cannot create clusters. Even create table, let's see, primary key constraint, but you cannot create clusters. It says instead, clustering index. This is the word clustered, clustering. Is sometimes used interchangeably. Okay, so clustering index are only, are only created by running create index with the cluster option specified. Okay, so that is the way to how to create a cluster index. If you want to create a table, a cluster index on a table on the primary key, the alter table statement must be used to add the primary key, okay, to the corresponding cluster index. This cluster index then be used for the table primary key index, okay. So that is the way, very specific in the documented in the Db2 LUW. However, because Db2 have two different on different platform, LUW and the mainframe, so sometimes people like mixed up, not messed up. So in the Db2 ZOS, you see they called clustering indexes, and at least the terminology is considered clustering indexes, okay? And you can see it. It says the first index that you define on the table serves implicitly as the cluster index, unless you explicitly specify cluster when you create or alter another index. So that is different syntax, different behavior for the ZOS versus LUW. For example, you create a table, you first define the primary key, right? Then you have a cluster index, implicit cluster index, okay, for the primary key. Unless later you like explicitly see which index to be cluster, okay? So that is what is confusing in the Db2 community. If we search on the internet, sometimes this messed up, okay? So we are stick with LUW. So this is what we need to know. We needed to know cluster index cannot be created during the table creation. We must create, if we need to create a cluster index, then we have to use create index statement. If we want to create a cluster index for primary key, then you have to add this primary key using the create index, the index cluster index. So we will demo this situation. Okay. So let's go back to the let me go to another example. So we just look at the GSDB. So if we do a sample database, let's see what the sample database has. Okay. So you can see sample database has like almost 400 regular indexes. They also have those kind of indexes. Those kind of indexes, it is for the MDC, multi-dimensional cluster. So it's none of them. It is the cluster index here. Okay, the one we're talking about. So for this demo, we already see we already examined in the standard sample database provided by IBM. We don't see any cluster index. Okay, so that is one thing, because IBM not provided something for user to learn from those sample database. That is also why it is not very popular. But in a real world, from the design point of view, it is for certain database or table we need a cluster indexer to give better performance. Okay, so let's do a example how to create a class index, and then we can find out. Okay, so I'm going to use a very simple example. Let's just continue with this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let me first connect to the database, and then we create a table to GSDB. Okay, so we already know for this database we don't have any cluster index. So now we're going to create a one. So first, let's create a table. So I'm going to create a table, very simple table. Okay, create a table. I'm just call it T. Okay, the T have one column. Let's call it C. Let's see, it's an integer column. And not now. Okay, so after create this table, we're going to create an index. Okay, so we're going to create an index. Let's see, create index. Let's call I. So this index is on the column C. If we don't specify the cluster keyword, this is a regular create index I. T. Okay, so on table T. So if we don't specify the keyword cluster, then we will just have a regular. So let's see that. Let's confirm. Okay, earlier we have 552. So now if we repeat this query, you can see we have 553. So we're adding a more regular index. So now what I'm going to do is, let me drop this index recreate. Okay, drop index I. Okay, so I'm going to recreate this index. This time I'm specify a keyword called cluster. So now this index is going to be a cluster index. Okay, so once the cluster index has been created, let's create it again. Okay, you can see it. We have a cluster index and the same number of regular index. Okay, so we can confirm this using this, do a Db2 LUW. Okay, so I'm going to do a Db2 LUW. GSDB, the database on the table is T. So we can quick look. So that is when we use Db2 LUW, and we get the same definition. You can see other table, create this table, and then we create an index on this table. However, we specify the cluster. That is why this is the cluster index. On the same spirit, so if we want to create a primary key, it is using this cluster index. It's called primary key cluster index, for example. Then we have to use a statement called alter. Okay, so the syntax is going to be db2 alter table T add primary key. So we're gonna add the primary key on the column, the same column, okay? So when we run this one, let's see, yeah, it should be fine. You could get a warning. It says existing index is used as the index for the primary key or unique key. So that means now the primary key is having a cluster index. Okay, so let's do the query again. So it doesn't change, right? You can see it still that many regular is one cluster key. However, if we look at the DDL for this table by using Db2 LUW, you can see it. In order to create a primary key cluster index, we need to do 3 steps. First, we create a table, right? And then we create an index as according to the documentation with the cluster option. After that, we alter this table and add a primary key to using this unique index. So that is the way to add. So let me just make this a little bit clear. So how to create the PK cluster index or cluster index. So similar thing, create table, create cluster index, then it's going to alter table name, right? And then add primary key and column name. So this is the way to go. So anyway, so this is something in the real world may be important because to support like a certain query, you might want to add a cluster index, and also it help with reorg, because if you define the cluster index, when you run the reorg, the data will be like ordered according to the cluster index. If you don't have cluster index or primary key, then it is a different story, right? So you have to pick up which key you want the data to be ordered. So if you have a cluster index, and also of course this index after you design based on your data distribution and also your query, and pick up which one is the cluster index, will help performance. All right, so that's for today's video.